Relay FM. This is Connected, episode 175. Today's show is sponsored by Linode, Squarespace, and Mission U. My name is Mike Hurley. I am joined by Federico Viticci. Ciao, Federico.
Hey, Mike.
And Stephen Hackett. Hello, Stephen Hackett.
Hey, it's good to be back with you
So
boys.
much happened during our time away, which is very rare that huge technology news occurs during our time away, but it did, and most of it's so old now that we're not even really going to bother talking about it. So we have a brand new show full of new stuff. No old stuff, only new stuff. That's what
we
you
do
get
have
from
2
Connected.
points of follow up,
But they're not
completely.
You know, we're not gonna start talking about Spectre or anything. That great James Bond movie that everyone's
The
talking
James
about.
Bond.
Is that a good James Bond?
You know,
I don't know. Do you know I haven't seen it?
I never watched a James Bond movie either.
Oh, okay. I don't need to
Federico.
go into that. I've seen every single James Bond movie and love all of them. I just haven't, for some reason, seen Spectre yet.
I know there is one like an old one from the 90s, maybe from the early 2000s, with a song by Madonna, I think.
Die Another Day.
Yeah.
You seen
I know
one?
I know that song,
Okay.
I think.
Is that it? You just know the song?
That's a good
Yeah,
story.
that's my knowledge about James
Wow.
Bond. It's the
Okay.
Madonna
Wow.
song. Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely other James Bond themes that you know, like, because some of them are very, very popular classic all-time songs. Like, for example, Live and Let Die by Wings. Paul McCartney and
Is it?
Wings.
Oh yeah, it's a Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
That one?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like, that's about
Oh,
the
thank
James
you.
Bond movie Live and Let Die.
Oh, really? Okay.
The songs are always named after the movie, with a couple of exceptions. We don't need to go into
Oh.
this. Like, we're good. We're good. We're good.
You're the one that keeps going further down this
Well,
this trail.
because I said a couple of things, and then I felt like I needed, I
It
know
was
enough
interesting.
that I
It
then
was
needed to
interesting to me.
clarify some of the edge cases. Like for example, the song for Casino Royale, I believe is called "You Know My Name," which was by the guy from Soundgarden.
Why are you still
Chris,
doing
was it
this?
Chris something, but like that was, so that was an except. Anyway, let's follow up.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to start with some very important follow up. Connected was named a runner up in the Best Tech Podcast category in the 2017 Upgradies, along with a show called Canvas that Federico you do with Fraser Spears. That's a really great show. So congratulations to us, I guess is what I'm saying. That's how I'm starting our 2018. Self-congratulations.
Yep, I was part of the voting committee and didn't win. I don't want to ever give myself an upgradey. That's not.
Yeah.
It's not a thing I ever really want to do.
That's
but
an uncomfortable
Connected
position
scored
to be in.
very, very highly with the Upgradians. And then there is always this fun thing where, like, Upgrade never scores very highly. And it's like, well, let's just hope that everyone's assuming not to vote for that show. It's a very... But the Upgradies were great. If you haven't listened to the Upgradies, it is an annual award show that me and Jason do on Upgrade. It is a great episode. I was very proud of it. You should listen to it.
It's good. $29 battery replacements underway. So this is one of those stories that broke during our break. We did last episode a week ago was our 2017 in review, and we actually recorded that before Christmas, and we had to like scramble to fix the battery replacement
No,
section
don't
at
let
the end of the
people
show.
know. Don't let people know.
Well, you can edit this out if you don't want.
No,
to do that.
everyone just thinks that we were like so succinct about it, right?
Yeah.
It was, shh, don't tell them.
But now we are, well, not us, Apple Store employees are deep in the trenches of replacing
we are
batteries.
replacing batteries. This is the real kind of test for the Connected crew. Is we are actually the ones replacing those batteries.
I was at my Apple Store, basically, I think December 30th or something, right at the very end of the year, and then I had to go back yesterday, and they are just completely swamped. We've gotten some emails and some follow-up from people who work in Apple retail or have tried to get their batteries replaced, and basically no stores have appointments. Very few stores have batteries. How they seem to be doing it is if you make an appointment and go in and they don't have the part, your name gets put on a list, and then when a battery becomes available to you, once that part of the list gets finally reached, then they give you a call and you can come back in and get it done. But if you have a phone that you think is affected by this, so if you have a 6, a 6S, an SE, or a 7, and you want this to be dealt with, I think patience is going to be the name of the game. I think that maybe don't go in this week or next week, like give them some time, because it seems really hectic in Apple stores. I've actually kind of been keeping tabs on iPhone appointments at my store over the last couple of days preparing for the show, and they have no appointments. Like, it's just really, really busy. So I guess our thoughts and prayers go out to iPhone technicians everywhere.
At this difficult time. I am wondering, why are you visiting Apple stores so frequently?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know too.
Well, part one of that.
Are you taking pictures there? You're taking selfies in front of the Apple store?
I just go every day and see if they still have a Mac Pro for sale. My first visit at the end of the year is a topic later in this episode, and then yesterday I just went in to pick up a watch band. So nothing nefarious.
I went to an Apple store yesterday.
Oh yeah, I didn't see you there. We used to miss each other.
we just passed each other in the revolving door. I think this is a funny story. I don't know if this is a funny story, but like I went to the ophthalmologist yesterday, and I had to like have my eyes looked at, and they dilated my pupils. Right, do that thing where like they drop the drops in.
That's awful.
For whatever reason, it was very difficult for them to dilate my pupils, and they put a lot of drops in my eyes before it would work. Now, obviously, the knock-on effect of that is like my pupils are significantly dilated. I was out in town. I actually had dinner with the wonderful Mr. David Sparks from Mac Power Users, who was in London. So I had some hours in between. And I decided that I wanted to surprise Adina by buying her an iPhone X. Because for the first time in the whole time that I've ever known her, she was complaining about her phone in like that she didn't think it was good enough. She's been using a 6S. She's super upset about the camera because everyone she knows, or a bunch of friends that she knows have iPhone Xs, and she wants the camera. Like she was unhappy with her Instagram game. So I decided that I would surprise her by buying an iPhone. But the problem was I had to buy this iPhone with my pupils severely dilated.
Oh no!
I couldn't see my iPhone. So I was pre-ordering it.
What?
So my pupils were so dilated, I couldn't read the text on my iPhone anymore.
What did you buy?
I bought the right one. Which was a marvel of what must be incredibly good app design from the Apple Store app. But I figured I had to pre-order it and go pick it up, right? Because I had figured there'd still be a line, right? Like there's always lines. But it was just funny to me that I was able to buy this phone, like standing on the sidewalk after I left the ophthalmologist with like my phone directly in front of my face. Like I had it like right in front of my face. I had my glasses off, like in my hands, kind of like a person who could barely see. It was a whole big scene. And this is not a thing that I will necessarily think is something I want to share with the world, but I'm going to send the two of you a picture that I took of myself. So my pupils severely dilated. So
I feel like we need context here.
You can see, so you're able to see what I'm dealing with. You'll need to zoom in on this picture so you can see my eyes. I'm sending it to you on iMessage so you know what I'm dealing with. But I had to ask Stephen about AppleCare. And I sent him a text message about AppleCare, and I was like, "How long after can you buy AppleCare?" And the reason is like he sent me a link, and I was like, "I need you to tell me because I can't read anything, but I can kind of just about make out an iMessage, but having to look through a document on like the Keybase would have been a disaster. But as you can see, my eyes were basically all pupils.
It's like you have two marbles inside your eye.
It was a scene, man. It was a real scene. I couldn't see anything for about 3 hours.
You should have asked for help. You should have asked, "Doctor, can you please buy me an iPhone?"
Please just press the buttons. Please press the buttons. So yeah, I went there. I went to the Apple Store. All the lights were really bright, and like it basically was like I was squinting the whole time. It was a scene. It kind of felt. I mean, I've spoken to a few people about this. It kind of felt like pretty trippy, like I was on something. It was actually, it felt pretty good to have my pupils dilated like that.
I was going to say it's very unpleasant, but
you have found your new hobby, Mike.
I actually kind of liked it.
You want a good time? Just put some drops in.
Traversing London, buying computer devices without being able to see anything. It was a real scene.
This
felt
is
alive.
the worst youth drug trend I've ever heard.
Eye drops.
Well-
It's not huffing paint, it's dilating your eyes.
You gotta drop those eyes. All right, so Stephen,
No.
come on.
Mhm.
You know what this is. You know how
Oh,
this
I
story
do,
ends.
because I can read the document.
No, but you know how this story ends, though. You know what I'm saying at the end of it. But give us your best shot.
So where we are in the Google document is topic 2017 iMac 5K versus iMac Pro, parentheses, story time with Steven. So I guess I have to talk now. I was going to buy a new computer at the end of the year, and I had a 2015 kind of mid-range i5 iMac 5K. And I did a spreadsheet because that's what I do in my life. And looking at the base iMac Pro, the 10-core iMac Pro, which is what I thought I was going to buy until I saw that it was like $6,700, and the 2017 regular iMac. So I sat down and looked at it all and decided the iMac Pro would be nice, but the loaded 2017 would still be a big upgrade over what I have. And that's what I'm going to do. So I ordered a fully loaded 2017 27-inch 5K iMac, like the i7, a terabyte SSD. I added 32 gigs of RAM to it from Maxell, so I had 40 gigs of RAM. Kind of a ridiculous computer. But what I quickly
Seems like
realized,
too much RAM. Like I know, like the people can really use their RAM these days, but that seems like that seems like more than you.
40 gigs is a weird number.
It's a
But you have
heck
the
of
8
a lot.
and then the 30, and then you add the 32. It was super fast, really nice. But the problem I had with it is that anytime I got near the CPU doing anything, the single fan in the Retina iMac would spin up, and it was exceptionally loud, way louder than my i5, and very touchy. Like I didn't have to, be exporting in Logic to do this. Like doing big file copies would do it. Anytime I got near the CPU, this thing would spin up. I've spoken to a ton of people with this computer, and some of them say their i7s do this, and a bunch of people like Dan Morin says that they don't. So I
Mine
don't
doesn't.
know.
I mean, I have that machine, right? Like I have a 4 gigahertz
Yeah.
i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM. I
Yeah.
do not have. Well, I have the late 2015, so I don't have the most modern one, but
Yeah.
it's much the same, I think. And I
They're
I
very
only
similar.
ever hear the fans when I expect to hear them. That's the only time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing like some noise removal or something, right? And
Right.
then I hear them then.
And that I'm fine with, right? Like if I'm pushing it, but I was nervous that I'm going to open a Chrome window while recording a podcast and this iMac is going to spin up. So I think that the i7 is more prone to this than the i5 that I had. That's to be expected. But I think there's some variation in these iMacs, and maybe I got one that was particularly touchy or particularly loud. And so I spent several days with it, and because after you do a migration, a lot of stuff happens. Like Dropbox re-indexes everything, Photos resyncs everything. Like a lot is going on in the background the first day or two after a migration. It was like, well, let this settle down. But it really never got to a place where I was comfortable trusting this machine to be quiet when I'm recording, because that's the whole point of this thing. And in the meantime, I'm having conversations with Jason Snell, the devil on my shoulder, about his base iMac Pro, about how it's silent, even under load. The only difference is the air out the back gets a little warmer. The iMac Pro has 2 fans. They're much larger. They're much quieter, and they're always spinning, but you can't hear them. I mean, my studio is dead silent, and I cannot hear this thing. Even under load, you'd never really hear it.
oh, this thing, huh?
This iMac
thing?
Pro in front of me.
Yes,
touching it
there you
right
go.
now.
hmm So the way that you fixed your 5K iMac problem was to buy a
to
Mac.
spend
iMac
another
Pro.
$2,000.
Okay,
Spend
great.
another $2,000. Yeah. So I returned it. I bought the base iMac Pro. You can walk into an Apple store and buy the base iMac Pro, which I thought you'd have to order it. And I was looking in the App Store, on my iPhone. I was like, oh, I can just go walk in and pick it up. So I returned the custom order to the store. I'd purchased that one online since it had some custom stuff. Returned it to the store, which is really nice. You used to not be able to do that. You used to be like, if you bought it online, you had to return it online. But now you can mix and match. And so I've been using the iMac Pro since New Year's or so, and It is the fastest Mac I've ever owned by far. It is dead quiet, even under like heavy load, like rendering 4K video or stabilizing 4K video or doing isotope noise cancellation. The thing doesn't make noise. Now, there has been a lot of conversation, including on our friend show, ATP, about the iMac Pro seems to thermal throttle a little bit, and maybe Apple has it tuned where they would rather throttle it a touch here and there than have the fans spin up. I'm not sure. I think I'd want a little more headroom where, like, if I am really pushing it and I know I'm pushing it, I wouldn't mind if, it wouldn't be the end of the world if it made some noise. But like the baseline of this machine, like sitting here talking to y'all with Skype and Chrome and some IRC app and Slack and Mail and Audio Hijack and iMessage, all this stuff open, it is not making a sound. And that's important to me since I make, podcast files for a living.
Now, I have a memory, and I have yet to find out where I expressed this, that I said you would end up buying one of these.
I'm sure you said it on this show.
I'm sure
because
I did.
I believe it's the episode you called me. What did you call me? It was very hurtful. The most indecisive person you know, I think is what you called me.
Something like that. I mean, all you're doing really is just giving me more evidence.
It's true. No, it's true. And
it's not that. Okay, so maybe it's not that you're indecisive. You are just you are always on the lookout for a better thing, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You demand perfection.
I do.
You didn't get it with the iMac 5K, but now you have an iMac Pro, so I was right.
It was really, you were right. The iMac was really disappointing because I really it was so much faster than my 2015. It was $3,000 as opposed to $5,000 for this thing. I really thought it was going to meet my needs. And, my thought was, I talked about this on a Mac Power Users episode, which I sort of ruined the ending of by buying this computer. But what I told David and Katie was, there's a lot of first gen hardware in this thing and it's all new. And I want to kind of see how the dust settles. And I want to see what the Mac Pro looks like, because to get into an iMac Pro, you're spending $5,000. If you go back to the cheese grater era, you could buy a Mac Pro for half that. It wasn't a great Mac Pro, but you could upgrade it over time and expand it over time. And I hope that they do that with the new Mac Pro. I hope that you could walk into an Apple store and buy a Mac Pro for $2,500 or $3,000. I don't think that's going to happen, but I would like for it to happen. I just wanted, I feel a little bit like buying an iMac Pro now. Like, it is meeting my needs and I'm really happy with it. But you are making a very expensive purchase without all the cards on the table, because I fully expect, we're going to get into our predictions, I fully expect that we will see the Mac Pro teased at WWDC and it'll be out in a year from now. Follow the same pattern the iMac Pro did. And so if you're a pro Mac user, you are making a decision with limited information. Now, for me, I really like the all-in-one form factor. I honestly do not know what the Mac Pro could offer me that this thing doesn't, that would make me want to give up the all-in-one form factor, because it's all very nice and neat and tidy and it looks really good. And I don't have anything under my desk. I don't have cables everywhere. And it's got the display built in. And if you buy a Mac Pro, Apple's going to charge you $1,000 for their new Pro display, at least. So there is that argument to be made that, you're making a purchase without all the information possible. But at the same time, this has already become the favorite Mac I've owned in a long time, because it is so capable, and the other tangible things I care about, like how quiet it is, how nice the speakers are, how nice the screen is, all those things are home runs. So far so good in iMac Pro land.
So I've spent a little time thinking, and I mean, I have no desire for an iMac Pro. I know people that have got them now. I've heard lots about it. I have no desire for it. I actually think that my next Mac will probably be the next Mac Pro, because I don't really have great desire to upgrade my Mac for having the coolest Mac anymore. Right? I used to, how I do with my iOS devices. They're the devices that I want to be new and cool. What I really want is a machine that I can just make incrementally better over time. And that's what a Mac Pro hopefully will be. So I think that all I want is just to be able to upgrade it when I need more performance. rather than having to overhaul my entire machine every time. So like I think prefer a Mac where I can easily upgrade the RAM or maybe even upgrade the GPU every 2 years rather than rather than buying a brand new iMac every 3 years. Like, I think that's what I want.
Yeah, no, a lot of that appeals to me. Like I said, it would mean some trade-offs that I'm not sure I want to make. But the iMac Pro is too far the other direction. Like if I want to upgrade the RAM in this thing, I've got to take it to an Apple store and beat off all the people trying to get an iPhone battery to have a Mac Genius crack it open and put RAM in it and charge me a fortune. Now, if I keep this machine for 3 years, at some point I may do that, but I can't upgrade the other stuff. And that is, and Jason, I think Jason is who said this, the iMac Pro is still an iMac. Like you get all the trade-offs and all the compromises that come with an iMac. Now for me, those compromises are fine for now, but it means certain things. This is a more professional iMac. It is not a Mac Pro. And so if your thought process, Mike, is to buy something and to, over time invest a little bit more and extend the life of it, then the Mac Pro, if it follows the path we all hope it will, is totally the right answer for you. And it may be for me in a year, I don't know. But for now, this machine is meeting my needs, and it is it's really great. And I'm fine with the base model. Like it's so much faster than any Mac I've ever owned. Mm-hmm. I'm not sad that I couldn't afford the 10-core.
Let's see how you feel when the 18 starts shipping, right?
Yeah, right. See those. The other thing too is that the base model iMac Pro, like it is working in a chassis with cooling that can handle up to an 18 core. Like I've got the slowest machine designed for this cooling system.
Oh, well, this was the theory, right? This was your theory for getting this computer. Is that? Sorry, I'm spoiling what you're saying.
No, it's fine. But the iMac that I had was the fastest, hottest computer designed for its cooling system. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's outrun that cooling system and they need to address it. So I feel like this machine inside has headroom that I'm not punishing it, because someone with an 18 core is going to be closer to its thermal envelope than my, little 8-core machine.
I feel that logic is really sound, and I think that's probably why you are happy with this one, right? Like you are running a machine that it is effectively cold for what it can be. Right, like the guts inside of your iMac Pro are fine for the cooling system, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like
nowhere
a step
near
up
what it
from
can handle.
the top tier of the 5K with a bunch of holes in the back, right? Like,
yeah.
It's fine, it's all good. All right, let's take our first break, and then it's predictions time. Today's show is brought to you by Linode. You'll have access to a suite of powerful hosting options with Linode, with prices starting at just $5 a month. And you'll be up and running with your own virtual server in the Linode cloud in just under a minute. Whether you're getting started with your first server or deploying a complex system, Linode is the right choice for you. They offer the fastest hardware and network with fantastic customer support behind it all. It has never been easier to launch a Linode cloud server. They guarantee 99.9% uptime for server availability. Once your server is up, they're going to keep it that way. They are great for tasks like hosting large databases, running a mail server, operating a VPN, running Docker containers, hosting a private Git server, and so much more. And Linode are hiring right now. If that's something that is interesting to you, linode.com/careers. They have options if you think that might be a good fit for you. Linode has fantastic pricing options available for their virtual servers. Their plans start at 1 gigabyte of RAM for $5 a month, and they go from their high memory plan starting at 16 gigabytes of RAM as well. So you go all in between and above. It's wild. So go to linode.com/connected and use the code CONNECTED2018, and you'll be supporting this show and also getting $20 towards any Linode plan. On the 1 gigabyte of RAM plan, that is 4 free months of service. And with a 7-day money-back guarantee, there is nothing to lose. So go to linode.com/connected to learn more, sign up, take advantage of that $20 credit, or use the promo code CONNECTED2018 at checkout. Our thanks to Linode for their support of this show. So last year we did our first kind of official predictions at the beginning of the year, where we wrote them down and tracked our progress throughout the year and then graded them in our year in review. We all enjoyed that process so much that we have decided that we're going to do it again for this year. So, round robin style, of course, these are our 2018 predictions. We have some new rules. So, there is going to be 2 rounds of regular picks and then 1 round of risky picks. If you get a risky pick, you get 2 points. But if your risky pick is wrong, you lose a regular point. So it's all to play for in the risky picks round. But because there's so many high points, there's a high point situation going on here, we don't want anyone to game it. So the 2 other co-hosts have to agree that the pick is risky enough to be deemed a risky pick. So like Federica can't walk in and be like, oh, my risky pick, maybe a new iPhone next year. It's like, well,
Yeah.
that's
It's not
gonna get you
risky.
double points.
Not a risky one.
Not a risky one. So we're going to start off with Stephen.
So I said this a little bit earlier, but I think that we will see a tease of the Mac Pro at WWDC with a ship date at the end of this year. So following the same sort of timeline as the 2013 Mac Pro and the iMac Pro. Tease this summer in San Jose, release at the end of the year.
So you're saying, right, that the Mac Pro will ship within 2018?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the key part here, right? Like,
Yes.
that's because you have to make it in, and I don't know how I feel about that. I think that WWDC will see what we saw with the trash can. I think it's going to be very similar to that, where they're like some moody lighting and some images and like super zoomed in, and like Phil Schiller says something a little bit crass again, and
Oh no.
who knows how he's going to step it up, but maybe they're going to need to get out the bleep sound for him. Who knows?
That'd be
But,
awesome.
I think that we'll see that. I don't know how I feel about this year shipping. I don't know if that's a done
You
deal.
think 2019 for the
I
Mac
think it's
Pro?
possible. I don't necessarily say that I think it's going to be 2019, but I don't know if because I don't know. I don't think any of us know how long it takes Apple to develop a computer from like idea to release. And
This will actually be the best indication of that we've ever had.
Exactly.
Because, they always say, like, we've been working on this for years. We've been dreaming about this for a long time, But we know that whenever the Mac Pro Roundtable was that March or something?
it was March or April.
Sometime this spring, they said it was underway, but the belief was that it was just underway. And so the reason I say this is I don't think they want to go into 2019 without this computer. They want to, even though it's not going to sell a bunch of machines, they've made such a big deal of it. I think they want to get it out so people stop complaining about it. And my guess
they do
is
keep talking about it as well, right? Like even in the
They do.
iMac
It-
Pro
yeah.
PR
Right.
stuff, they're still talking about
So-
the Mac Pro.
I think the team that's working on the Mac Pro is probably just like pedal to the metal, have been told you need to get this done quickly. And so I feel pretty good about this. I mean, it definitely could slip, but I feel like this is a thing that I feel comfortable picking.
All right. I'm up next. I think so. Stephen is upset at me because I've made it hard for myself again in kind of picking 2 things in one. But
You've blown this one already.
no, it's fine. I think that there's going to be a bigger iPhone 10 style phone this year, but it won't have an OLED screen in it.
Nah.
So
so like the
Nah.
rumor
Yeah.
that from a while
Half
back.
point.
Okay.
that's what I think.
Half point.
I think. But the thing is, though, you say this, my half points, I think, was what got me to being tied.
That's true. Bunch of
'Cause
half point.
I
Bunch
got
of
a
half
bunch of
points.
half points. But
true.
I do think that there will be an expansion to the iPhone 10 line this year. But
Yeah.
I don't think that Apple have enough experience of OLED yet to make a really good big phone. And that there is already enough OLED shortages of good OLED screens in the world, and that's probably only gotten worse since the iPhone 10, that it might be really hard for them to secure enough panels that maybe just pushing it off one more year might be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
By the way, like I thought about this device. If this device exists, I am going to be in a real quandary. Like if that
Really?
actually happens, yeah, because I want a bigger. I always want a bigger phone, right? Like it's the idea, like the whole
Right.
idea of the Plus Club. But I love the OLED screen, right? Like if I had to go, it could be tricky for me to make that decision, like to go back to LCD, because one of my favorite things about my iPhone now is all of the apps that I have that use the True Black, right? Like I love it. So like when me and Nadina were setting up her phone yesterday, she uses a bunch of apps that I use, and I was turning all those settings on for her. She's like, "Oh, I really like this. Like it's really nice." And I would be very sad to lose that if I went to a phone that didn't have it again.
No, you're gonna get the 10 Plus anyway with the OLED. So this is my prediction.
Hope so.
Don't count my point.
But like predictions aren't what I want, right? Like they're just what I think will happen. What I really want is a bigger iPhone 10 with an OLED screen. Like that would be incredible.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just don't know how Apple announces a new iPhone 10 and they're like, "Oh, it has an LCD." After
Well, no, but they wouldn't
praising
say
OLED
that, though.
so heavily.
They will say it has one of the best. It has the best LCD screen we have ever made. Right? That's what they'll, like. And they'll say we have this incredible iPhone 10 with a beautiful Super Retina display, and now we have like this one with the Hyper Retina display. They just give it, it's just like a new name, and it's just, but it's just a big
I
LCD
don't know if they can
screen.
walk that back. I don't.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe
I don't buy it.
I wonder if maybe they could do something like, instead of keeping the current iPhone 10 around and making it cheaper, they sort of remake the iPhone 10 and make it cheaper because it doesn't have an OLED display. So you know how they
10C, put it in a bunch of different colors.
Yeah.
But like
Basically-
that thinking is how you end up with an iPhone 11, which is the new version of the 10, and then like an
Yes.
iPhone 10s or something, which is two LCD phones, and they replace the 8 and 8 Plus, right? So like that's how you could end up getting there. So we'll see.
So I'm up next, and I'm going to say that iOS 12, or whatever it's called, but the next version of iOS will have focus on speed and how Apple made it faster. So I think there will be one of the tentpole features. It'll be on a slide, and Apple will specifically call out the fact that iOS 12, they focused on making it faster and making it perform better thanks to various optimizations. And I think this will happen sort of to counter the narrative around iOS 11 and how problematic it's been for so many people, this update cycle, whether it was about the battery or, the fact that Apple was slowing down the older iPhones, and even maybe to an extent, all these mitigations for Spectre and Meltdown that are sort of making these chips a little slower. But I think Apple wants to counter this narrative and say, this year's update, you're going to want to upgrade, because not only do you get new features, not only do you get maybe new design, I'm not going to count new design in my prediction, however, and not only do you get new emoji, but you get a faster phone. And now I believe this could happen either in a bunch of ways. Maybe it could be a series of optimizations. For example, every single framework is moving to Swift, or maybe it's gonna feel faster because all new iPhones get the promotion display, or maybe the new UI framework, which is rumored, it'll be so much faster. All the animations, all the transitions will be faster than before. But I believe that Apple wants to call out the fact that they've been working on making iOS faster and feel faster and be faster, even from a technical point of view.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that maybe we will also get more settings and options to control the fact that, it's become common knowledge to say if your phone feels slow, just wipe it and restore the operating system. And I don't think that Apple likes that. So maybe we will also see a feature like a built-in cache delete option. Because most of the time, this idea of wiping your phone, it goes mostly, it's related to the fact of wiping all the app caches that you have on your device. And so I wonder if maybe there will be new settings to control that aspect without having to do a restore.
And I bet that if they do this, some of the focus would be on it's faster for everyone, right? Like no matter how old your phone is, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it would make sense based upon the narrative, especially of the last few months.
And I think there's room for them to give users better tools to manage this sort of thing. Like saying just, reinstall iOS and put your stuff back on it. Like people have to know how to do that. And it's not the easiest process in the world. And so maybe even making that simpler could be useful. But at the very least, I think having some tools to manage things would be good.
Yeah. All right. This is we're now entering round 2
Yep.
of regular picks, not risky ones. And I think Mike is up first.
An Apple Watch with an always-on display.
Oh, that's kind of a risky one, though.
So
It
that
is.
feels like a risky pick.
It is. I'll tell you why I've gone with this.
Okay.
If Apple are going to add any feature to the Apple Watch, this is probably the next one,
This should be it.
right? Like, this is what I expect every Apple Watch user will be like, oh, yeah, now it's way better. Like how people did with LTE. Like, if you're going to make a change, this would probably be the change that you would make. So that's why I've gone with it here. I admit it is a little bit risky, but I'm comfortable with it in just my logic that if they're going to make a big change, it would be this. It's either this or a complete redesign of the Apple Watch. But
Should I add that to your pick?
Nope,
or
please don't do that.
Complete
No, please don't.
redesign.
Okay, I mean, if I'm getting an or, then I kind of get an extra pick, but whatever. I think that based upon Apple's trend of the last 3 or 4 years, they're more likely, I think, to add a feature and keep the design the same than they are to redesign and start from scratch again. And I would love to see some kind of always-on display in the Apple Watch, because I think even my current one could handle it. Like, I don't think it would be too killer on a battery that just will never die on me. Like, the current Apple Watch battery, I mean, I charge mine every day because I just take it off and put it on the charging stand. I never, ever get problems. Like, I can travel across the globe, right? I can be awake for 24 hours and I have 65% battery life left. Like, this is not a problem anymore. Apple have given themselves so much room now. And I genuinely believe that one of the reasons for that is so they can have some kind of always-on display. So
Let me ask you
I would
this.
like to see that. Go on.
Would you rather have the same Apple Watch design that is thick but has the always-on display because it needs the battery so the design cannot change yet? Or would you want a redesigned Apple Watch that is thinner and it's got a new design, new look, but it doesn't have the always-on display?
Personally, I would prefer the always-on display because in a daily usage basis, I have no problem with the Apple Watch's design, right? Like, it's fine. I'm used to it. Like, I live with it. I would get more personally out of just being able to look at my wrist and see what I need to see rather than having to raise it every single time than I would for having it be a little bit thinner and maybe a little more sleek. Like, just personally from the device, like because like if I want to get the best looking watch, like Apple's probably never going to make that, right? Like, no, because I could just go to a watch company and buy a really nice watch, right? Like, I'm not wearing this so I look the best, like, because then I've made a fatal flaw in my purchasing. I'm wearing this because of its utility, and anything that makes it more useful to me is a good thing. What would you do in that sense, Federico?
I'm not sure. I think I would go with the new design
Okay.
because I get the appeal. I get the appeal of the always-on display, but honestly, raising my wrist, it tends to work 90% of the time. I think there's an overlap between the same people who complain about Face ID not working tend to be the same people who also complain about wrist, whatever it's called, not working. And for me, like 90% of the time, it works well. And it's fine. And it's not like I'm constantly looking at the time.
Okay, but I'm not saying it doesn't work because it works. It works all the time for me. But I would prefer to not have to do it. Like, if I have my hands typing on my keyboard or whatever, or like I'm doing something and I want to see the time, I would prefer to be able to just look, because that was what it was like with watches I used to wear.
I get it.
That was what it was like with my Pebble, right? Like, I would prefer that. But it doesn't not work. It is more reliable for me than the iPhone's Race Awake.
I guess it's just not that big of a problem to me, and I would very much prefer a new design. So to always see something that is new, and so I can show it off and just have something cool and new it's been 3 years. I would rather get the new design personally.
Okay. I think that those two things, I would be very happy with both of them. But I just think for me personally, I would prefer the always on. All right, Federico, it is your pick.
All right, I think the new Apple streaming service for movies and TV shows, or actually maybe just movies, I don't know, but for TV shows, I mean, will be announced in 2018, and it'll probably be called Apple Video. I think it will have 1 to 2 months for free, just like it happened for Apple Music, but maybe not 3 months, but just maybe one. I'm wondering if maybe there should be a trial of like 4 to 6 weeks, basically. And so I'm not sure if we will see an announcement at WWDC, because I don't know if Apple wants to repeat kind of the criticism that they saw with the Apple Music announcement at the end of the developer conference. So maybe it'll be a separate event. Maybe it'll be announced in September. I don't know. But anyway, I think we'll see Apple Video with a roster of new TV shows. I've been following the news a lot about this. I've been listening to Upgrade, where you always, Mike, have an excellent discussion with Jason about this.
Thank you.
And I think 2018 is the year that we'll get this announcement, and also maybe an option to bundle your subscription with Apple Music. So instead of paying $20 every month, you pay like $15 or $16 and you get both services. I'm really excited about this, especially following all the news that we've seen and we read on Variety and other entertainment publications over the past few weeks. I think this should be really interesting to see this year.
I think it's very curious that in your pick you have specifically named it. That seems like that's your risky part, I think.
Yeah,
it's a real Mike move.
Yeah, that is a real Mike move. You've really gone for
this. This is gonna be a half point. I already feel it. This is gonna be a half point because I got the name wrong.
Everything else, I think you've just hit it on the head. But the naming, I agree that that's probably what they will call it, Apple Video. But I could see. You know what I was going to say? They could call it Apple Watch. No, they won't call it that, will they? They already have that. Facebook have a video platform that they're calling Facebook Watch, which I think is such a short-sighted name. I think that's such a silly idea.
Facebook watches you.
But just because there are smartwatches now. I feel like that is like a namespace which is all taken up. But anyway, I do agree. I think that it is coming this year, and I think that proposition, what they will offer, a couple of months free, that's exactly what I did with Apple Music, and bundling it, I think makes a lot of sense. I reckon we may see something like a real big bundle, including iCloud storage space or something when they do that. I think that would be nice. You just pay one fee to Apple, and it includes a bunch of stuff. That would be good.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to make the first iPad-related pick. I don't think you guys have yet. And I'm going to say that the iPad mini will remain stagnant through 2018. No new iPad mini.
No updates, no price drops, nothing. Just there.
I'm just going to say no new iPad mini. I don't know about a price drop. It'd be nice if it did.
No new
I don't want to speak
iPad mini
to that.
hardware. Okay.
No new iPad mini hardware.
So changes to the price or the configuration, like maybe if Apple replaces it with a higher storage option, that doesn't count. Yeah. There has to be a new model of the iPad mini. Okay.
Right. Yeah, they can tinker with this one, but no new CPU in it, no new screen or anything like that.
All right. Okay. I think it makes sense.
It makes me sad because I think that, it's a device that I still think some people want, but I think it's going to go the way of the iPod Touch and just sit for a really long time.
I was thinking about the iPad mini for my picks, and I couldn't decide whether I wanted to go for a risky pick of them either killing it or making a new one. I figured it was both. Because I have no idea.
Go either way.
I have no idea.
The beauty of the way I've structured my pick is if they kill it, I'm not wrong. So
interesting.
That means no new iPad mini.
Interesting. We are clearly finding out that the wording can get you that point. But you're right. Yeah, if they kill it, then yeah, that's also correct. I like that.
Yeah.
What you don't see, listener, is Stephen is now writing "if it is killed, I'm not wrong" into the document because he just wants to make sure that when it comes to grading time, he gets those sweet points.
That's right.
So the only way that it's gonna be wrong if Apple actually makes a new iPad Mini.
Yeah.
But it has to be a new model with a new CPU, not a storage bump, not a price change, but
a new model.
I would say the way that we decide this is if there is ever a press release or an announcement where they say the new iPad Mini. Doesn't matter what's inside it or what it looks like, but it is referred to as a new thing. Because the iPad, that $329 iPad wasn't particularly new.
Well, it was new though. It was new.
We all know what a new model is, right? Like we all understand that if they add a 32 gig option, all of a sudden that's not a new iPad Mini. Like, we understand
all right,
what a new.
But what
iPad
if
Mini
they
means.
take the current iPad Mini and they throw like an A10 in it?
That's a new one.
That's a new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
New CPU.
That's kind of our baseline, right? New CPU.
And even if they change the camera, I would say that's a new one.
Yeah. Okay, I tell you what. If they do something where we believe they have to manufacture it differently,
yes,
then it is new.
Yeah.
And doing something like giving it a better camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's totally fair. Yeah, that would be a new model. So.
All right. Yeah, but storage, no, that doesn't count, and I agree with that. It doesn't count
because they just fiddle with that all the time.
Yeah, it's like whatever. Storage doesn't exist anyway. It's all a lie. It's all in the cloud. I think that's how it goes. Today's show is brought to you by Squarespace. Use the offer code WORLD at checkout and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Make your next move with Squarespace. Let you easily create the website that you have knocking around in your brain so you can get your next idea out into the world. And with the ability to grab a unique domain name to sell your website, award-winning templates to show it off, and 24/7 customer support to back it up, they are the perfect place for you to put your next thing online. There is nothing to install, no patches to worry about, no upgrades needed. Come on, this is Squarespace. You don't have to worry about any of that. They are the all-in-one platform that will let you get your online store or portfolio or blog or site for your business out to the world. They have specific templates for all of those, but Squarespace is so customizable that you can take any of their templates and do whatever you want with it. It's fantastic. They give you great starting points, but it's really customizable, but not so much that you're going to get lost in it. You can spend some time in it, you spend a day, get everything the way that you want, and it's set and it's ready to go. And you can try all of this out for free, so you can go to squarespace.com, you can sign up for a trial, you don't need to give them a credit card, and you can try it out and make sure that it's right for you, build your entire website. And then when you're ready to sign up and put it out to the world, their plans start at just $12 a month, but you can get 10% off your first purchase by using our offer code, which is WORLD. You'll also be supporting Connected when you do that. Thank you to Squarespace for the continued support of this show and Relay FM. Squarespace, make your next move, make your next website. All right, so we now enter our risky picks round. So I'll just reiterate at this point. The risky picks, you get 2 points if one is correct, but you will lose a point if you get it wrong. So you can get some real gains, but also some real disadvantages. And Federico, you're first up on risky picks.
All right. So I think we will see Workflow 2. Don't count the name as a prediction, but a new version of Workflow, either as a built-in system feature in the next version of iOS or a brand new app that you still need to install from the App Store. Or it's built in, but not as a feature, but as an app on your home screen. That's what I mean. I think it will be heavy on Siri integration. So you will be able to create your own routines or workflows or actions that you then summon via Siri. But it'll also retain the productivity features and automation features that we've had in Workflow so far. Ideally, this should be an entire automation framework for pro apps that would be able to talk to each other and to create, for example, custom menus and custom extensions that they can interact with multiple apps together. I think the App Store version will be kept around for a while to allow people to migrate from the old version to the new one. And there will probably be, if Apple does this, there will be a migration tool so that you can move your old workflows to the new app, to the new version. I'm really excited about what the Workflow team has been up to. They've been quiet for the past several months. I know that we've had Workflow updates, but they haven't been as big as the updates that we used to get by the workflow team before the acquisition. So something is clearly up, and I think we will get some workflow news this year. I'm really hopeful that it's going to be the kind of major update that I've always been hoping for.
You have given us something that is impossible to score because you have 4 things. We need to whittle down what we're actually scoring you on.
Here's my list. Workflow 2 will appear either as a feature or as a standalone app on the home screen of iOS 12. It'll have Siri integration, but it'll also have the standard automation features with the framework for apps to like an API that they can take advantage of.
All right, so we are in a third points situation with you here.
Yes.
We'll see how that comes, but there are 3 parts. So Workflow 2 will appear. It doesn't matter how, it will just appear, right? Or something that we can clearly see is the follow-up to Workflow, right? Heavy on Siri integration, but also a framework, like Workflow Kit or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's thirsty.
That is
That's bold.
Like when you put the risky picks in place, I wasn't expecting this risky. That's a big one. I don't think 2018 for this. I think this is all coming, but I think 2019.
We'll see.
All right, Steven.
It's bold. It is bold. My risky pick, and I don't think it seems like a risky pick, so I'm going to defend it after I state my pick. But I think that we could see an iTunes rewrite for macOS. And the reason I think it's risky, or that it could be considered risky, is because there are lots of people who would say that Apple shouldn't make that investment on the Mac at this point, that it's a really big, a huge project, and why would they spend that effort on macOS at this point in its life? But I think that if they want Apple Music to be like a first-class citizen on the Mac, they've got to do this. We've talked about this. I've switched to Apple Music. I'm all in. And it's sort of weird on the Mac because iTunes kind of treats it like the old iCloud Music library, and there's like lots of confusion in places in the app about what's happening and where files are and that sort of thing. And I think that the Mac would benefit from this, but I don't know if Apple sees it that way. I don't know if Apple sees it as a important thing to do, but I keep thinking about it, so it's my risky pick.
I want to do some clarification on this. If they make an app called Music and an app called like iPhone Utility,
iSync,
does that count? Because the way I'm reading this is there has to be an app called iTunes.
So I will say iTunes rewrite or replacement.
Okay.
I think that's more in line with what I'm thinking.
But
because I agree with you, I think that would totally count.
There is a thing that is new, which is iTunes, either in name or in function.
Spiritual succession.
So I agree this is risky because this has been like a 10-year wish at this point.
Yeah.
It feels
that's
like.
That's the other side of this, right? Like, it's either going to happen or it's never going to happen.
And
so who knows?
The fact that it constantly comes up whenever we talk about what we think should or might happen at WWDC, I think that this is risky because there is no specific reason that it will be this year more than last year or the year before or the year before.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the brilliance of it if I'm right. So.
All right. So my risky pick, iOS 12 will feature a large-scale UI redesign across iOS, the biggest since iOS 7.
That's a bold one, but I'll tell you what, I agree with you, and it makes total sense.
Do you know why? Because we are basically as far from iOS 7 as we were from iOS 1. Is like my thinking. Also
because we have like 5 different design languages on iOS, right?
There are so many design languages and time. Right, like it is the fact that I feel like from a design perspective, we are very far away from iOS 7 now, and also we're coming up on a similar kind of time frame, and I feel like that these time frames would get shorter over time. Right, that it wouldn't. I don't think that we would be waiting for iOS 14 for the next big redesign. I feel like that they should get shorter over time, and I think that. Purely based upon the fact that iOS design is kind of all over the place right now, and I'm seeing a lot of UI designers like kind of wishing for skeuomorphism again, that I think it might be time for a shakeup.
Yeah, that's been going on for a while. You know, designers wishing that to go back to the days of drop shadows and 3D elements and stuff like that. But I feel like there was sort of a movement of nostalgic UI designers, but over time, most of the people that I follow have kind of settled on evolving the flat design language into something that is not as skeuomorphic as it used to be, but somewhere in between. You know, with some either by the
character to it, right?
Character with color and animation, and different transitions. Some use of shadows, for example. So I think it's time. I agree with you. I think it's time for a unified design language that feels fresh, feels new, is shared across all these multiple devices that Apple has, this entire ecosystem on the TV, on the watch, on the phone, on the iPad. I think it's time. I think it makes total sense, and you're probably going to get these 2 points, Mike.
We'll see.
So I want to clarify it a little bit. Is this, what if Apple takes one of their 17 different design paradigms that ship in their apps and just make that the universal look? I don't think that's a large-scale UI redesign.
I think the way that we would grade this is depending on how much time they spend at WWDC talking about it.
Yeah.
Like, if they are like, this is iOS 12's new design, right? Like, and I think it doesn't matter if it looks like something that already exists, but like all of the apps change. Like all of the remaining apps conform.
It's in the State of the Union how to lay apps out in this design.
It's like if every app that Apple makes gets those huge title bars because they don't all have them, right? Then I think that would count. If they're like, we want your apps to look like this. And I also think that, that Federico, you've spoken about this a bit, and I'm definitely in agreement with you that the iPhone, and John Gruber in his review of the iPhone 10 recently said a very similar type of thing, that like some of the changes that the iPhone 10 after a year will inform iOS design, right? Like that there are ways to design for that phone which could be and should be different, but haven't been fully realized yet, and it probably requires a new version of iOS to make that change. So I think that's another just another reason why it would be now. So we'll see. So we move into extra picks. These are just things that we think are going to happen, but we're not getting any points for these. But it's just for bragging rights, stuff that we think is going to occur.
Bragging rights.
But that's all it is, right? That like we come to this time next year, and we're like, "See, I told you." So Federico, you go first.
Reminders will get a major redesign. So new look for reminders. I feel like this has been a long time coming. It has to be one of the most popular apps on iOS because I see people using notes and reminders all the time, but reminders still look kind of weird. Like iOS 7 designers not fully committed to ditching the old paper texture.
Comparing reminders and notes is interesting. But reminders didn't get good in the way that notes did.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like notes got good. Reminders has kind of mostly stayed the same. And if it works for you, that's awesome. But Apple have not spent a significant amount of time adding features to reminders like they did with notes a couple of years ago.
No. And there's just so much potential, whether it's about attaching different types of items to a reminder or even tagging, using the same design in iOS 11 of files and mail, for example, using, enhancing the way that you do sharing or checking in with Siri, especially now coming, with the coming of the HomePod. I can imagine in a family setting how you could, for example, everybody could check in on the shopping list that is saved in reminders. I just think there's just so much, and even on the iPad, things that you could do with drag and drop and integration with other apps. I feel like reminders has been neglected since basically iOS 8 after the iOS 7 redesign, and I think it's time that Apple gives it some attention. I could probably say calendar too, but calendars are boring, so I'm gonna go with the reminders. I wanna see a major reminders redesign.
I think that reminders design is infuriating. That card design, I've never liked it, and every time I've ever tried to use that app, I just don't know how to get to anything. I really do not like it. I do really want them to drop the paper look in those as well. Like, please, just please. It doesn't do anything.
I know that you do a pen show, Mike, so you have
I have a special affinity for paper, yeah.
Yes, but honestly, like, all these metaphors, they don't work anymore. Like, young people, they don't write to-do lists down on paper, or if they do, it's not because they love paper. So these throwbacks, they used to work 10 years ago, they used to work 15 years ago, and they were awesome because they helped people familiarize themselves with computers. But now people know computers and they know smartphones. So I feel like at some point it becomes a limitation to, and this is the same discussion that we had in 2013 for iOS 7, but even more so today. In the age of voice assistants and machine learnings and the Echo and all these modern technologies, we're still thinking about paper. I mean, come on. So I think we
used to have that design where it looked like a folio, right? And like you tuck things into the side of it, and it was like legal pad. Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's never go back to that.
I mean, right? People know how to use a sidebar.
No, so. I don't know. Unless it's like a little leather pocket. I don't know if people can get it.
I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do with my hand here.
All right, Stephen.
So I'm going to go in with what I'm going to call Gurman Kit until we're given an official name.
But could have called it the G Kit. Could have been another name.
German G Kit. G Kit's good. That App Kit and UI Kit will give birth to something new and cross-platform. We don't know what that looks like beyond his reporting, but the idea that Apple has some sort of next generation platform framework for developers to have one app that runs on the Mac and on the iPad and on the iPhone. I think that's something that we could maybe if we don't see it completely, maybe we see the beginning steps of it this summer at WWDC.
I think this is an inevitability. It's just a fact of timing. Like maybe I believe probably this year, but I think it's just a fact of timing. I'm going to go for my constant evergreen pick that I'll keep picking forever.
Here we go.
New Apple Pencil with some kind of button on it that does something. You know what? I saw someone, I think it may have been Dr. Wave on Twitter, was talking about this the other day, and I agree so much. I would honestly just like an on and off button on the Apple Pencil so the battery would last. Yeah. Because if you do what I do, which is use like a pen loop to keep it attached, the battery dies real quick because it's keeping the connection running, right? Because there's like a proximity thing. I would love to be able to just hit a button on the Apple Pencil to turn it on and then start using it. Like there are ways you could do it, like unpairing the Bluetooth, but that doesn't work. And then I thought I had a great idea, which is to turn Bluetooth off on my iPad, but because of the wonders of iOS 11, it doesn't actually kill the connection. It keeps the connection. It gives you a little pop-up, tells you, don't worry, the Apple Pencil will stay connected. It's like, oh gosh, okay, thank you.
I worry. I want to worry because you're not doing what.
Because I came to the realization that the only thing that I need Bluetooth for on my iPad is my Apple Pencil. So like I could just turn it off and leave it off. I mean, I use my AirPods sometimes, but it would be. I always have to like do the thing where you do the pairing. So like just hitting another button wouldn't hurt anyway. But anyway, so yeah, a new Apple Pencil. I think it's time. Please make one out of aluminium and put a button on it.
This would have been a nice risky pick, Mike, but I understand why it's not. My next prediction: we're gonna see a new smart keyboard. I also think it's time that Apple changes the design of this accessory, and I think we will see a new material, maybe a backlit model. Because Logitech is doing like a bunch of these. It's obviously possible with the keyboard connector. And also maybe it'll have a dedicated Siri key on the keyboard itself. I think it makes sense, especially if Apple expands the textual, the type to Siri feature that it's in iOS 11, if it maybe becomes like a standalone mode, not an accessibility feature, it will make sense to have a Siri key on the keyboard so that you can just tap it once and you type to Siri and you're done. I really want to see a new Spark keyboard, but I also think it's time that Apple. I think this should be a safe prediction. If Apple is working on new iPads, I would be really surprised if they don't come with a new Smart Keyboard design.
I want this too, for the same reason I want the Apple Pencil.
Yeah.
All right, Steven?
Just this is the Hail Mary because there's no points attached to it, but maybe a iPod Touch update.
What would you do to it?
Make it bigger, I think, to match 4.7 inch. It has the A8 in it, I think. I think I don't know. This is one of those things. It could just go away too, I guess, because I don't know how many they're selling. But I feel like if they're going to update it again, I mean, this summer is 3 years, and it's got the A8 in it. I think if they're going to do it, it's time. So if they don't do it, then it just goes away. That's fine too. But I think if it's ever going to get an update again, this is the year that they do it.
I want to see bezel-less iPod Touch. Oh, that's all I want. Just give me an iPod Touch with a notch on it. The iPod notch. It would be beautiful.
It'd be tiny.
My extra pick on iOS 12, the iPad home screen will feature more than just app icons.
Oh, fancy. Okay.
You gave me trouble about iTunes rewrite or replacement being an evergreen pick. This has been desired for 12 years.
I know. I tell you why I went for it now. They added so much in iOS 11 that, like, if you want to add an iPad feature, there aren't many big ones other than a shelf that you can add.
I don't know about that.
But like big obvious stuff that's been like something people have wanted for a while. Not like little enhancements to files, right? Like not like this or that, but like big things where you can point to and be like, see, they're still working on the iPad. I feel like this could be one of them. Even just adding widgets.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be a ton, but
honestly,
this is where I struggle. What do they add beyond widgets? Is that it? Is that all that's out there?
Drag and droppable widgets. So like being able to drag a file onto a Dropbox widget and it uploads. Like that's something that I would like.
You mean workflows?
I do
Actions
most
on the home
certainly
screen.
mean workflows. I do most certainly mean those.
Yeah, I honestly think like interactive widgets, whether they are actions or like lists of data, basically what a widget is right now, or document.
I would love my
previews.
calendar widget and my
exactly.
toggle widgets just on the home screen
Yes.
rather than moving backwards and forwards. So, this isn't going to like shatter the earth, but I think if they were able to do this, it would look like they're still focused on the iPad. Like,
and
because I really don't want a lot for the iPad from iOS 12. I just want them to like sand off the edges of iOS 11. Like there's a bunch of work I would like to do on files, which I will talk about this at some point on the show, like what I want to see Apple do with files, because I have a lot of things that they should be fixing and a lot of things they can add that like I need to start writing a list. But I don't need a lot. I want some bug fixes and some feature which is a sign of life. That's all I personally want from iOS 12 for the iPad.
I have a final prediction here, and this is sort of connects to Steven's actual pick. But I think Apple Video and Apple Music will finally have dedicated apps everywhere. So Apple Video for Mac and iOS and Apple Music for Mac and iOS. So basically what I'm saying is music and video removed from iTunes. And at that point, I'm not sure what iTunes on the Mac is anymore. So this
Ringtones.
is why, or I don't know, podcasts maybe? I have no idea. So yeah, Apple Video and Apple Music, both apps on the Mac and iOS.
So that's it. That's our picks.
Yep.
We will be, if and when any of these things happen throughout the year, we will address it, but we will be doing points scoring in our last show of the year before the year in review, right? I guess that's when we'll do this. So we got all the way until the end of the year, especially with Steven's Mac Pro. I mean, that could happen all the way up to December 31st, I think, potentially.
Yeah.
It could be all the way up there. All right, we have one last topic today, which I'm pretty excited about. But first, I want to thank a new sponsor for the show, and that is Mission U. Mission U is a one-year program that will give you the skills and experience needed to launch a successful career in data analytics or just about any other 21st century career. They have a student-centered approach, and they prove this with no upfront tuition costs or high-risk loans. Mission U partner with companies like Spotify, Lyft, Uber, and Warby Parker to provide students like you with invaluable work experience. The Mission U program is perfect for go-getters who are determined to make their career a success. If you think that could be you, your new career-focused schedule will look a little something like this. In the first trimester, you'll focus on developing skills like collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. In the second, you'll work on technical skills, and to wrap things up in trimester 3, you'll get valuable internship experience. Overall, with Mission U, you're looking at 80% live virtual classroom sessions and 20% bi-weekly meetups with networking and skills development. Here's how the application process works. There are no standardized test scores, no GPAs. You just tell them about yourself. You take a short quiz to show your problem-solving abilities, complete a 45-minute team-based challenge, and then meet a member of the Mission U team for an individual interview. This is the first step towards a resume full of relevant experience and a debt-free future. To learn more about Mission U and earn up to $500 upon completion of the 4-year program, go to missionu.com/connected. That is MISSIONU.com/connected. That's $500 upon the completion of the 4-year program. Head there now to learn more and see what your career could be. Thanks to Mission U for their support of this show and Relay FM. So it is CES time. And me and Federico wanted to talk about some of the trends that we have seen over the first few days of CES and why they are interesting to us. Steven
doesn't want to.
Doesn't want to do this. But me and Federico are keen to talk about a couple of these things.
Here's because you have taken what I said and blown it out of proportion. My overall problem with CES, and like this, a lot of this stuff is really interesting, especially the smart assistant stuff. And I think it's super problematic that Apple's not there yet. But so much stuff at CES just isn't real. It's vaporware, or it's LG announcing a robot that takes your suitcases from your car to your hotel room that they're never going to be able to sell because unions are a thing. Like, so much of it is just not anything, right? Like, I've been watching, The Verge does these like things where they cut up a keynote into 10 minutes so you can just see all the important stuff. I've watched all of them. I watched like 3 of them over breakfast, and it's so much of it is just like nothing. And we can talk about the things that are real, but that's my problem with CES. Like, the stuff that's real, it's going to happen. That's great. But so much of it isn't. And that's where I struggle. So
I feel
the
like
stuff we're going to talk about, I think, is exciting, but I think you have to temper that excitement with, you have to filter it all through the idea of like, some of this stuff is just concept, or they're just talking about innovation because that's the word they have to use at CES, not because it's real products that make a difference in people's lives.
I feel like there's 2 sides to this conference, and this is why, well, maybe you're totally right from this point of view, that there's the CES where you get these new accessories, these new devices, stuff that is actually gonna ship, that is actually getting like a pre-order going live this week, or a ship date in like 2 months. So that's the real stuff that's been announced and previewed and even released.
A reputable big name company. Right?
Yes.
Where it's like they're going to ship this stuff because
yeah.
it's going to look silly if they don't. Whether you think it's good or not, right? Like, they're going to ship it.
But to an extent, you could maybe even make the argument that even LG, for example, is showing off like a foldable OLED TV. And I mean, that seems to be a working prototype, but we're not sure.
TVs are like a whole big thing of CES. And companies like LG, they come to CES with technology that they've just developed that will ship in 5 years' time, right? Like, but they come to CES with their breakthroughs because a lot of it as well is like what they're trying to do is get companies to buy. So, like, for example, Sharp a few years ago came with a bunch of equipment, which ended up showing up in stuff like the Nintendo Switch, right? Like, you know, it's like multiple years into the future you'll see it, because sometimes these companies are just trying to get other companies to buy their panels and stuff like that. Like, TVs are a thing which have always been big at CES, and this is one of the reasons, because all the big manufacturers bring their breakthroughs. I mean, and I will say though that LG thing is wild. Like, it is a screen which rolls out of a box. It's so weird, but like, I think I would kind of like that, right? Like, in 10 years' time.
Did you see the modular Samsung TV that you basically make it bigger by attaching panels to the monitor?
It's freaking incredible, though. No,
and
it's 146 inches.
Yes, they call it the wall. So to Steven's point, we also get these crazy announcements, whether from big companies or smaller companies that nobody knows. And you get the suitcase that is supposed to follow you, but keeps on falling to the ground, and you get a dancing robot, you get the robot stripper, and I'm not kidding here, there was a robot stripper at an event last night, it seemed. I saw the news on Twitter, just awful.
So what is wrong with these people?
And you get these crazy, wild, inappropriate ideas that are never gonna happen. So I thought we should quickly mention the stuff that we are going to see available on the market, that we're probably going to buy some of these devices, or just general trends that I think are interesting. And the first one, I believe, that everybody's talking about this is the new accessories, new devices, from TVs to headphones to speakers, even cars maybe, with either the Amazon Echo Assistant or the Google Assistant built in. So native integrations with the assistants by Amazon and Google. We've seen this in the new 4K TVs by LG. We've seen this in wireless earbuds, which are also a trend. Everybody's making AirPods-like earbuds now, and I believe it's because Qualcomm has announced a new chip that makes it better for manufacturers to make this kind of accessories. We've seen the Google Assistant in JBL's new line of speakers and earbuds. We've seen light switches with displays, and we've seen kitchen TVs with the Amazon Echo Assistant and the Google Assistant built in. So we're seeing these two assistant APIs becoming available in a wide range of products. And I wonder, so my question here, so obviously this is interesting from a nerd point of view, because it's, cool new technology and voice controls in a bunch of different appliances. I think it's very cool. But is this a problem for Apple? Is this a problem that these two are becoming the de facto standards in the third-party assistant market? And do we believe that Apple is making a mistake by not opening up Siri in a similar way?
So I was one of my picks that I was thinking of making, this isn't an official pick, but one of my picks was going to be that we don't see the HomePod until Q2. I don't know why. I just feel like, where is it? Like, where is it? Nobody knows. And no one's saying anything, and it doesn't exist yet, and it's just late. But I think what is happening is Google and Amazon are like, okay then, we will spam the market. We will own it. We will put our technology into everything, because it benefits them ultimately for what they're trying to do. Like, Apple is trying to sell their devices ultimately. Google and Amazon are selling their ecosystem. Like, they want to, but their ecosystem isn't a hardware ecosystem. It is the thing above it all, right? So Amazon just want you to buy more stuff, and Google just wants your data. Right? Like, so they don't care if JBL makes a speaker that has Google Assistant in, or they don't care if iDevices, which have built a wonderfully bonkers thing, which is a light switch, which has the Amazon Echo built into it. Not that it can turn it on and off, but you can literally talk to the light switch. I think that is wild and amazing. Like,
you look like a crazy person talking to a light switch. What the hell are you doing?
The idea of like
talking to the wall.
Everybody had trouble writing this headline, Because when you read it, you just think, oh, they just made a light switch that I can turn on and off. No, you can talk to the light switch, right? So like clearly something happened with Google and Amazon, especially for this CES, where they've just gone to these device makers and they're like, do what you want. Like, I mean, I think that Amazon have done something, right? I don't know if they're enforcing this, but the blue ring of light seems to be on all of their products that they're endorsing, like that have the Echo stuff built into it. So I expect that that's like a brand thing for them. But then Google, they have like released a whole new part of Home and Assistant, where now there are Lenovo, JBL, LG, and Sony are making Google Assistant devices with screens on them.
Yes.
And they have built this whole new interface, which is built upon, I think it's called Android Things, which is their like wearable platform. And it's just Google services right now. It includes YouTube, LOL, Amazon Show, right? Like the Echo Show, they've been having some real problems. And now Google's like, oh, just use YouTube on this screen device. But that's interesting to me that they are pushing into the screen thing too, and have a thing which is all ready to go.
Yeah, and Google is clearly catching up with Amazon here because they must feel behind, and they've been kind of aggressive both in terms of the brand presence at CES. I saw the photos of just Google logos and Hey Google signage and billboards and, you know, just everywhere, at least judging from the photos of taken by people there. And I saw that Google also reorganized the sort of the interface and the catalog for the Google Assistant. It's now officially called Actions, the thing that you install. So Amazon has Skills, the Google Assistant now has Actions, and I don't know how many million actions they say they are available, but a lot basically. And I sort of I'm fascinated by these two companies going against each other. And Google sort of feeling the need to catch up quickly, as opposed to Apple taking their time with a single speaker that doesn't basically have any third-party integration natively from a native perspective. And I guess the core discussion here is, do we believe that this stuff is all a fad, that it's basically nobody's gonna buy these devices in numbers that really matter ultimately? Do we believe that this is a fake trend that will go away and nobody cares? And I wonder, at what point does this argument sort of not make sense anymore? Because once you get the assistant in your headphones, in your speakers, in your car, in your TV, does it matter at the point? Is that relevant, or is it only relevant if Apple does it? Which I think is can be a little, you know, somehow short-sighted to say, well, unless Apple enters this market, then none of this stuff matters. Because I mean, we're talking brands like Sony, JBL, LG, Samsung, Lenovo. These are actual brands that, you know, it's not like I'm running a Kickstarter for a I don't know, like a remote with Alexa built in. It's like I'm you know, these are big companies, and so I think it's something worth paying attention to. And I've seen on Twitter folks say, well, everything's gonna change with the HomePod. Is it though?
It's not though.
I mean,
because it's not even
excited.
this market, right? Like Apple are not even really going after this. They're just making a really good Apple Music speaker that does some other stuff.
Yeah, they're going after Sonos much more than Google Assistant and the Amazon Echo lady. I do think that that thought process, Federico, that if Apple's not involved, is not important. That is one that people in our circles fall prey to. And that's why I wanted to say what I said about how I feel about CES, because I don't believe that if Apple's not in it, it doesn't matter. Because I think that's a foolish way to view consumer technology. But, you know, you got to actually ship stuff too. I do think the big story, though, from CES is all this assistant stuff. Like, Google and Amazon are in a war. Like, just they are going after each other, and the YouTube stuff and all that stuff is, you know, different fronts of the war. But it's really getting to a point where you can have one of these assistants, like you said, everywhere. And that's something that you know, Apple people have always said, well, you know, Siri's with you in your pocket, and the Amazon Assistant is stuck on your kitchen counter. That is not true anymore. That's you know, that's not a fair critique anymore because these things are becoming more and more ever present. I mean, just the other day I was, watching something on TV, and there's a commercial for some car, and in the car commercial, like on television, is it comes with the Amazon voice assistant built into the car. Like this stuff is becoming mainstream, and there's always stuff at CES that's kind of out there, right? That maybe the Amazon voice in a light switch is a dumb idea, and the market will show that, but this stuff is everywhere now, and this market is progressing in a way that Apple clearly is not approaching it straight head on. They're approaching it from an angle, and I think there's room for Apple to be successful here, but Google and Amazon aren't waiting around to see if that comes true or not.
Yeah, it's like this smart speaker and assistant technology, it's like a whole new avenue for CES, especially this year. Because it's given another thing for there to actually be, for these device makers to make stuff and show it off. Because like CES in the last couple of years has gotten a bit dry because there hasn't really been a thing. But this is like a thing, right? Where like all of these companies are able to be like, here is our smart assistant product, and we're working with Google to make these headphones. Like it's like a whole thing that they can talk about. And I think that like, I spoke about this with VR, and I think that the core idea is the same, that every technology company is terrified that they're going to miss the next smartphone. So any big technology trend or any trend that starts to occur, all of these companies, they rush at it, right, to make sure that they're going to be able to have a seat at the table. Nobody wants to be Facebook in 2008, right, where they're like completely miss mobile. Like, nobody wants to be them, right? Like this informs Mark Zuckerberg's entire acquisition strategy over the last few years, right? Like, and he said it, like, because he said it. He doesn't want to miss out on how he missed out on the smartphone. So anytime that there is a big technology trend, these companies rush at it. So that is what Google's doing. That is what Amazon's doing. They want to make sure that if this becomes a thing, they are the player. And that's why there's like a billion products. And it's interesting, and it is keen as somebody heavily in the Apple ecosystem to see what, or if they're ever going to do anything, or if this ends up just being an enthusiast thing and nothing more. We're not that. I think the jury is still very much out on that one. But there was another trend, which is a long-lived CES trend, but was here in 2018 as well, Federico.
Yeah, combining multiple devices, multiple gadgets into one.
I
so
think
convergence.
It's called convergence. This is the convergence.
Yes, this is the right word, Mike.
Convergence is the C in CES. It's the convergence electronics system.
Let me go through this list because it's kind of amazing. A USB-C dock that is also a Qi charger. So not only can you plug in your cables, you can also charge your iPhone on top of the cables. This is actually quite genius. A HomeKit smoke alarm that is also an AirPlay 2 speaker. So you can stick it to the ceiling, and not only does it save your life, it also plays some sweet music as you're escaping.
And has straight up one of the best pun product names I have ever heard.
Yes.
So I want to once again, the pitch of this product is it is a smoke alarm with a speaker in it. It is called the Safe and Sound. Oh my gosh! Someone needs to get a raise. That is incredible. Somebody did a lap of the office when they came up with that name. It's amazing. The Safe and Sound.
Bob from marketing really deserves the raise because this is amazing. Hold on, because we're not done here. A mesh router that is also an Alexa speaker.
This is the most ridiculous one. That's the most ridiculous one.
You can talk to the router. You can ask questions to your...
Okay, here's my problem with this one. Most of the time, your router, it's in the center of your house, or if you have a distributed system, they're kind of all over the place. But like, they're never where I want my voice assistant to be. Like, I don't have a router in my kitchen.
Looks like a boombox, so you can put it anywhere you want a boombox to be.
That's what my kitchen needs, a boombox device.
Yeah. You carry it around on your shoulder, and that's how you get good Wi-Fi throughout the house.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Can I interest you guys in a mouse pad? In a mouse pad that is also a wireless charger.
So here's my problem with this one. On the face of it, it's like, okay, if my mouse is wireless, then great. But then your mouse mat needs to be plugged into something. So it's kind of pointless, right?
What if the pad also charges the mouse and the iPhone on top of the pad? So it's a air power, but for your mouse and phone.
I mean,
you know? Could be.
It's not
CES 2019.
It's not the worst thing.
All right,
but on
Mike.
this, super quick. In a move that I expected, but is very interesting to me, Adina absolutely loves the Qi charging.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say I don't really care for it, but she very, very, very frequently does not plug her phone in. She just puts it down and falls asleep. Well, now all she needs to do is put it in a specific place. So yeah, she loves it. So I'm pleased I have the charging pad for her. But yes, maybe I need to get her a mouse mat instead.
Yeah. Final pick. What about? I know that Mike doesn't drive, but maybe this could be the hot gadget that convinces
That
you
pushes
to
me to buy a car
license.
and get a driving license.
What about an Amazon Echo speaker for the car? Hold on. There is also a dash cam, so you can be like the Russians. You can be like the Russians, constantly recording when they're on the road, and make sure that, this
Making good
activates
YouTube videos out of it.
making great YouTube videos, and this activates the recording when it detects a crash, and it saves a local file for you, and then you can ask the Echo to, hey, play my accident, and you get, you can see you can relive those terrifying moments.
Do you remember the Meteor one? The Russian dash
What?
cam with the Meteor hit the
Oh my
ground.
gosh.
Oh yes, exactly.
It was incredible.
Exactly.
You could be that
You
person.
neglected to mention one feature of this, that on the back of this device, so the part that's facing you, the driver, they can throw up driving directions. So you can, look at a little
So it's
half-inch circle
actually
in the corner of your windshield.
an Amazon Echo speaker with a dash cam and a GPS in it.
Yeah, this is the Garmin Speak Plus. I think we mentioned the Garmin Speak
We did.
a while back when we talked about the Amazon Echo APIs. This is a new version. It's called the Plus because it's got a new feature, which is the dash cam.
I will say,
But it's the
though,
same idea.
This does actually seem like a pretty compelling product.
This is of all the weird combos that
Of all
we've
the
seen
toaster
so far.
fridges.
I gotta say, the Safe and Sound and the Garmin Speak
Safe
Plus
and
are
Sound.
not so terrible.
You
The
know,
Safe and Sound though. I mean,
I've
that's
thought about
amazing.
getting one of those Nest Protects, but I'm really nervous about trying out the newfangled smoke alarm. Right, I feel like of all of the things, to try out, the smoke alarm isn't one of them. You know,
You want that to be tried and true.
I want the
Right.
most dumb smoke alarm possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Has anyone ever said I'm really excited about my new smoke alarm? Is that a thing that people
I mean,
get
I guess
excited
people
about? I don't
that
know.
when they got the Nest Protect were pretty excited.
Yeah. I have not bought the Nest Protect. I'm like you, Mike.
What if you never use it? Do you go man, I cannot wait for my kitchen to catch on fire so I can make
No,
sure
you're
that I'm
supposed to
getting my
test it.
money,
Oh
my money
gosh.
out of this purchase.
Do you not test your smoke alarms,
Yeah,
Federico?
but how do you do the actual test in the fire? The fire doesn't come up and press the test button. That's not how that works.
We don't have smoke alarms in Italy. It's not like a regulation
Oh
that
my-
we need to install.
How
there.
are
What?
you alive?
What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
but
don't do
Federico,
smoke alarms in Italy.
This is like the
What?
seatbelt thing, where
No,
just
no.
because there's no regulation, that you still
Yeah.
get one.
Well, why
You
would I
live-
want a smoke alarm?
What?
I
You
wear
live-
I wear the seatbelt because I'm driving and it saves my life.
What?
When I'm cooking, I'm not gonna
No.
make my kitchen catch
No,
on fire.
no.
What if you're-
No.
Okay.
Any good smoke alarm is smart enough to not go off when you're cooking. I have a smoke alarm in my kitchen and it doesn't go off, but it works.
I mean,
Oh.
I got two
So,
dogs.
I've
I got two
seen-
dogs. They act as my smoke alarm if they smell
No.
something
I've
funny.
seen
No.
not if the smoke
No.
gets them first.
Yeah.
I've seen your cable management behind your TV. You should have a smoke alarm. It's
Oh.
a matter of time for that.
I
that
am.
place goes
I
out.
can only apologize for what your mentions are going to look like. You
It's gonna
walked
be
into
awesome.
this. We did not bring you into
This-
this. You gave this information willingly.
I don't understand why. I understand that smoke alarms are common in the UK and in the US. It is something that in Italy, nobody I know has a smoke alarm. So it's not like I'm just the crazy person here without a smoke alarm. I was never like when
I
I was a
get it.
kid. My parents didn't have a smoke alarm. My grandma
Buddy,
didn't have a smoke alarm. Like
I
it's,
get that 100%. Like I have, like in Romania, nobody wears seatbelts, right? And it's like everyone thinks that it's disrespectful when I put the seatbelt on in the taxi, but I'm like, I don't care. And like when I'm there, Adina wears a seatbelt. I like keep looking at her until she puts it on. When she's in London, she has no problem with it. When she's in Romania, she never wears it. I totally get how like these things are just like they become a part of just the way that people live. But this is just one that like if you live in other parts of Europe or you live in the US, not having a smoke alarm, like people think that you have lost your mind. Like this is akin to the seatbelt thing, right? Like is seatbelts a thing in Italy or no? Do people wear seatbelts?
yeah. Well, it is a thing. People, especially younger people, they all tend to wear seatbelts.
But older people do that thing where they like clip it in and put it behind them or whatever, right? Like
I mentioned before that in Naples they sell T-shirts with a fake seatbelt print on them,
which is just like I don't even understand the type of person that will get a specific T-shirt to drive in.
My dad. I'm not sure if he does this still, but my dad had his doctor prescribe him like a piece of paper basically where the document says that this person has a shoulder injury and is allowed to not wear seatbelts. And whenever the police stopped him for routine checks, on the road, he would whip up this document saying that he was allowed not to wear a seatbelt.
It's like the medical marijuana of seatbelts, right? Like,
yeah.
You get this. You go to the specific doctor and you give him $25, and then you get the piece of paper,
Probably
which means you don't have to wear a
get
seatbelt.
my dad arrested for this revelation.
No one knows his name. We're good. We're good. And as we know, bribery can go a long way, Federico. You just give some money to the police officer and you're all good.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
Take your seatbelt to the bakery. You'll be fine.
Federico, I would love it if you could buy like a super low profile smoke alarm so like none of your friends know, but just like put it in the hallway, right? Like, just so we know that you're good, I just want to know you're good.
Do they sound the siren if there's a problem?
Well, of course they do.
Yes. That's the point.
Otherwise, what are they doing? Just like, we recorded there was a fire. Good luck. It's an alarm, Federico. The clue's in the name. If you want to find our show notes for this week, go to relay.fm/connected/175. Don't look for us on Twitter this time. We're all good. Like this time, Federico knows now. You don't have to tell him. I'm probably saying this too late. We're too late at this point.
This is not going to be as bad as you think, Mike. This is totally going to be fine. People understand. I'm Italian. We do things differently. People know.
All right. Well, I feel like you're just goading people now into this. But, go to macstories.net, 512pixels.net. Subscribe to the 512pixels YouTube channel. Stephen, when have you got a new video going up?
Monday.
Oh, wow. That was quicker than I expected. I look forward to it. Go check out more shows at Relay FM. I hear this from people. They're like, I don't listen. We have, trust me, if you are listening to this show, we have at least one more show that you would enjoy. Like, I would put money on that. I will bet you $1. This is, I'm walking myself into a situation. I bet you $1. There is at least one more show that you could listen to if you want to listen to this one. I bet even if you listen to 2, you could probably find another, but I'm not going to bet you on that one. Thanks again to our sponsors this week, our friends over at Mission U, Squarespace, and Linode. We'll be back next time. Until then, say goodbye, guys.
Arrivederci.
Adios.